Yo, it is SKFC back here with another video, and we're going to be talking about the game that just happened today between Manchester City and Tottenham and Manchester City. Surprisingly, lost to Tottenham at home, 4 goals to 0. And I say surprisingly because this is the first time Manchester City have lost at home in like 2 years. The last time I think it was against Brentford right before the World Cup. And the way they lost today was very, very deserved. I think it's kind of just with what both teams were going to do and specifically the execution of that. So I can think of another place to start with the average positioning. So when I look at Manchester City's average positions, the thing that sticks out to me is just how narrow they are. Pretty much everyone, barring the fullbacks and Walker and Vardiol, and I guess Stones to a certain extent, were so narrow and compact. Obviously, it kind of makes it hard to probably defend the wide areas. And it can also kind of lend itself to being a little bit more predictable in terms of, trying to attack the other team because you can't really stretch out their defense as much without having the proper amount of width to do that. And then when you look at Tottenham, they aimed to basically just get that ball up as soon as possible and attack through the wide areas. And they specifically made it a point to target, Kyle Walker and his old ass, he's Asian, and his somewhat lack of defensive positioning at times. That's just going to get more exposed the older you get, obviously because he doesn't have the speed that he used to in his prime to cover for that. And you can kind of see that deliberate point to do that when you look at the fact that pretty much, 5 out of their front, what would you say, front 7 was on the right side. When you think of, Dogi likes to overlap, Son who can take it down the byline or cut inside, Madison who's creative, can and make runs into the box as well. So Tottenham just did a really good job of being compact defensively and forcing to not be able to get through into their goal, as well as making it a point to attack the wide areas and to take advantage of. And this is the thing that I might City have had trouble defending transitions this entire season. This is not a new problem for them this year. And especially when you go up against a team that is one of the best transition-based teams in the league in Tottenham, obviously, if that being such a weakness of yours, is going to be something that they're going to be looking to exploit. And I think one of the things that is telling, I'm going to switch over to this now. So even when I look at the statistics, right, we look at the XG, and Tottenham have it won, 2.7 and 2.4. So it shows that, they were getting, good quality chances to score. You look at the expected threat, Manchester City are almost twice as much as Tottenham's. You look at possession, you're looking at almost 60 to 40%. You look at the field tilt, you look at the tilt, which kind of just describes how much territory each team was getting on the other in kind of just throughout the game, and it's 3/4 in City's favor. So you look at all those things, and you think to yourself, how the hell did this team concede 4 goals? How could this team not, get any goals of their own? And I think one of the first things to look at to kind of see why that is this right here. Pressures per defensive actions, 18.9 to 6. So that shows just how good Tottenham were at pressing them, at making sure that Man City were not having their way in their build-up play. And when you combine that with just how narrow City were throughout this entire game, it's no wonder that Tottenham were having such a good joy in doing that, because when you build up with such a narrow space and you don't force for them to press you, because there's only so much space that they have to worry about covering, in their aggressiveness to get the ball back. And then obviously this also kind of correlates to the high turnovers with Tottenham having 5-2. And we consider that, Tottenham only had 9 shots this entire game and they scored 4 goals off of that. Um, Having, 5 turnovers, high turnovers, mean that it comes in, your own half, close to your goal, is obviously not going to be ideal in a situation like that. In terms of why City struggled offensively, they mainly just couldn't create down the middle, and most of their chances came through crosses. Vardio had some good chances for Haaland in the first half. I think Foden had a pretty good chance in the first half that he skied over the bar as well. Probably the best chances that City got were after the introduction of De Bruyne and Grealish, but that was way too late in the game for that. It was literally, I think it was like 12 minutes left in the match at that point. They're already down 3 goals, so it didn't really matter that much. And I think that you know going forward, this is something that I obviously City aren't a team that tend to struggle for goals. I mean, even now, they have 22 goals in like 12 matches. So it's not as if, they're that toothless in front of goal, but, Tottenham was just really resolute today in terms of making sure that they weren't going to get what they wanted in terms of, you know, progressing the ball into their half. And again, this is, I think, really reflected in their average positions. So if we're just to kind of analyze the goals that went in today, I'm obviously not going to play the video, but I'm at least going to like show it to you through stills, right? So we see here for the first goal, Vardiol and Kluvkeski are in a race to get to the loose ball. First goal was scored by Madison, who right now I believe is being tracked by, I believe this is Gundogan. Then you have, I want to say this is Lanky, and I'm going to assume this is Poro here, right? So if we skip, oh man, that's probably not a good way to do it. But if we like kind of keep going through the stills, so we see that Kluvkeski is able to get the ball over Vardiol, right? And is also able to kind of position himself to cut inside with the ball. And I think the thing that you kind of have to note here is, again, look at where the Manchester City defenders are, right? And when you look at kind of what happens with tracking the run, and I'm just going to play at like really slow speed, right? So you see here that at this point, the play I really want to highlight is Gundogan, and I believe, because I want to say this is Madison. So Stones is watching the ball, and I'm going to assume that Kanji's watching the ball too. And Gundogan is the one that's been tasked to mark Madison. And I think the other thing you have to keep in mind that I didn't bring up earlier, which is my bad, is that the midfielders naturally don't hold well compared to a Rodri, which is bad enough. But then you consider that none of the midfielders really have the type of physicality to be able to make recovery runs if they screw up a defensive assignment. So you see here that Madison's making that run, and Gundogan just isn't going to have the pace to be able to keep up with him if he does that. And again, also good on Son to make this run. So he's pretty much taking Vardiol out of the play, giving Kluvkeski time to really scan the field and pick out which pass he wants to make. And at this point, Madison's clearly overtaking Gundogan, and he's clearly going to make that space into the box over here. And Walker isn't going to have enough pace to be able to catch up in time. And again, Stone's still ball watching. And at this point, you can see that Gundogan kind of points to Stones and tells him to mark Madison. But again, Kluvkeski's already spotted the pass. Stones is going to be too late to make that turn to mark Madison. And by that point, again, great cross in, and honestly, amazing contact on the ball by Madison. Like, this is really, really good technique. So, like, you kind of imagine if you're the center backs, like you don't have reliable midfielders to track runners in for you, and then at the same time your fullbacks are getting bullied, it's just going to make it hard for you to do your job because essentially like every little thing that goes wrong, the other team can just collapse on you. And I think this is emblematic of kind of the other goals that they scored because they all came through the wide channels, all of them. I'm obviously not going to show you all 4 of them, but they all came through the wide channels. So Manchester City need to figure out a way when they're not in possession of the ball to have good, solid defensive structure that doesn't collapse at the drop of a hat. And I'm gonna go into again. I'm probably gonna make a video this week going more in depth about what their issues are and why they're experiencing them. But this is my video for today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel. Give me your thoughts below, and remember to have a good day.